Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC, a proud member of the Pantheon podcast team.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno, and direct from New Jersey, Metal Walt.
Good evening, everybody. As always, Thursday night, new content drops. Tonight's episode, we have a reunion of three bands that went across America this spring under the label of the Hell's Decibels Tour. Brian Ross of Satan, Jarvis Leatherby of Night Demon, and Trevor Church of Haunt. They're going to join Metal Walt and myself. We're going to talk about how the tour went, some road stories, how the three bands got along. They basically did this tour as a DIY. You know, they're helping each other set up, selling merch, doing security, and just bonding across America. They're going to talk about what's going on with all three bands now, this summer's tours, what's going on in the fall. So it's a really cool catch-up kind of show. Now, we're fresh, newly added to the Pantheon Music Podcast Network. And if you're listening to us for the first time on this network, welcome to the Metal Mayhem ROC Club. What we do up here is a lot of fun stuff, a lot of in-house content, a lot of interviews with up-and-coming bands, as well as established acts. Recent episodes, last week we had Don Jameson, that rock and roll metal comedian. He was on, and we had a little roundtable discussion under this show we called Rock and Roll Detention. And we were talking about, can rock become a brand? And what's the cutoff point with bands having unoriginal members or one or two members? It was a great discussion. Before that, a couple weeks ago, we had Brian Diamond of MTV fame. He's a content producer. He was on the show talking about, you know, what was going on in MTV during the heyday. A few weeks before that, we had Bobby Blitz Ellsworth from Overkill. And before that, our rock and roll history of metal series. We invite you to get up to our website, metalmayhemroc.com, and sign up for our weekly newsletter. Now, this is our chance to stay in touch with you about new podcast releases, reminders for our live radio show on Monday nights, CD reviews, concert reviews. 'Tis the season, gang. You know, Metal Walt's going to shows every other day. I'm making my rounds. Mark Zagotti's doing CD reviews. So again, get up to metalmayhemroc.com and sign up for our newsletter. For our regular listeners of the show, we invite you to get up to pantheonpodcasts.com. Now, what this is, this network, it's the podcast network for music fans. We have over 100 shows focused on music history, interviews, stories, commentary, news, reviews. Again, that's pantheonpodcast.com. So again, what we have tonight is the Hell's Decibels reunion show. For my co-host, Metal Walt, I'm the Vernomatic. This is Metal Mayhem ROC. So in our continued effort to bring you unique and interesting content, we have a meeting of the superheroes, if you could say. We have 3 continents covered, actually just 2 continents, but many states. We have Jarvis Leatherby of Night Demon, Brian Ross of Satan, Trevor Church of Haunt, Metal Walt, and myself, the Vernomatic here. We're sort of calling it like a metal summit. We're here just to talk about the bands, everything that's going on, and what's going on in the future. Gentlemen, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC. Jarvis Leatherby, Night Demon. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Good to see you.
You too. Brian Ross from Satan over in the UK. Now, Brian, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, man. I've got a little bit of a cough, so if I do break down in coughing fits, you know what's going on. When we're out on the tour, I got a chest infection, and I've got another one now, so it's not great. But yeah, other than that, I'm good.
And from Balmy, California, 7:30 in the morning. Trevor Church of Haunt. How are you, Trevor?
I'm great, man. Pleasure to be here with y'all.
Thank you. And my co-host in this Metal Crusade, Metal Walt from New Jersey. Hey, Walt, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, guys. It's a pleasure to see you all again. The last time we all talked was out on the sidewalk on Van Houten Ave in Clifton, New Jersey in early April. So here we are again 2 months later. Good to see you guys. Welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC.
So, Walt, what's the blueprint this morning? Why don't you get things going right away, and let's get into this. These are three great bands. What do you got?
Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about the tour and the bands and these guys who circled around the U.S. And then since we've actually seen you guys last, there's been a lot going on. But, you know, first of all, guys, congratulations on like a totally kick-ass tour. And I say this like with all genuineness in my heart. Like, I know for sure at the end of this year, this is going to be a top 5 show for me. And I go to a lot of fucking metal shows. But it was just, it checked all the boxes. And I'm hoping you guys had that the same. You know, it was like the perfect mix of, you know, hey, Satan, you guys are the veterans. You've been out there since the late 70s, early 80s. And then you kind of got the rising stars coming up, right? Haunt. It was a great mix of music. So maybe Jarvis, I think you were instrumental in putting this tour together. Like, how did this package get put together?
I've been managing Satan for about 5 years. But prior to that, we were just friends and playing a lot of gigs together all over the world, kind of meeting up at festivals and stuff. My friendship with Trevor started growing a lot in like around 2019. And we just kind of decided, kind of like weird, like before the pandemic, we were kind of thinking, the way to tour the U.S. was to really have a strong package because, as classic heavy metal, it has its pockets in the U.S., but it's such a big country. And we kind of wanted to, instead of all of our bands going out on tour individually, which is what we all had been doing previously, putting it together kind of makes it, a must-see event for anybody that's in the metal, and you're talking about for like the Monday through Thursday night kind of thing, right? Because when you're on tour, it's not just weekends. So it's, in order to have success during the week, which is the majority of your touring, you kind of have to put something together where it's like, no matter what's going on, I'm going to be at that gig, if you're a fan. So, this was supposed to kick off in April of 2020, and we all know what happened then. All bands got sidelined. So this was the thing that was almost 4 years in the making. One thing that we did is I think all of us kind of saw the future of it and knew this wasn't going to be a 2-week curve, and so what we avoided, which a lot of other bands did, was postpone these tours, right? Postpone them 4 or 5 times, and hold on to people's ticket money and stuff. We just scrapped it, canceled it, and held on to it, and knew that the next time that we were all going to tour in the States again, it was going to be this tour. We were going to put it together. So we held on to it. We rebooked the whole thing. And, a lot of effort went into this, and we actually made it bigger than it originally was. So it ended up working out well. And it was just kind of one of those things that we really wanted to see happen. And so we kind of stuck to our guns with that. And luckily enough, there was like festivals that kind of sprung up because of our tour, and also some festivals that honored their 2020 commitments to us in 2023. And that's the gist of it.
I think it's an understatement when you say we added more. I think the original tour, I was going to have to drive from California all the way to the East Coast to start this thing. Wasn't it something like that?
It was, but and on the flip side, we started in California, and you still had to drive home from the East Coast. So
it's more fun going. It was, when you start a tour going out like that, you're like, damn it, this is gnarly. On the way home, our asses were already kicked anyway. So it was just like,
right.
From what I recall, there was one tour bus, and then Trevor, I remember talking to you guys, and you guys were heading out to like Pittsburgh or something, or San Antonio. So did you guys all drive together?
We played San Antonio alone. That was on the way back to just to break up that ridiculous 4-day drive of hell.
Yeah, it was Satan and Night Demon in a tour bus carrying the backline and Haunt in a van. There was no days off in the tour. There was only travel days for days off. We didn't take a single day off. So,
hey Brian, I remember chatting with you, and I think we were getting a kick out of it because the Jersey show was a couple of days after Easter, and I know on Easter Sunday you played the St. Vitus Bar in Brooklyn, and I just think it's so fucking funny to think that Satan playing the St. Vitus Bar on the holiest day of the year on Easter Sunday.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. And it's kind of, I kind of cracked a joke about it. And I thought, like 3 seconds after I said it, I thought, this is going to get me into a whole load of shit. But it didn't. People took it as just my British humor, which it was. Because basically, I mean, I'd been ill. And I hadn't been doing anything for 3 days. You can see where I'm going with this. So I said, you guys, nobody gets out of life alive except me. I tend to come back after 3 days. I was talking about the illness, but it was kind of have a double meaning with the Easter thing. But everybody was laughing about it, and it was cool. So I didn't actually get myself into trouble over it, but that was really good. But the whole tour was like an experience, which was just, so amazing. And Jarvis pulled it together. And, we'll be eternally grateful for that. And we had such a great time. The bands involved were such, great bunch of guys. And we formed friendships that will last forever.
Absolutely.
I was going to say that. Were you guys like, jiving with one another, kind of checking each other's sets out? I would only assume so, right?
I might have been the craziest person in the front row during the first week of Satan's tour. I was going just ape shit nuts every night because I hadn't really gotten to witness that here in the United States. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Brian, so it was just such a great thing. And me and Jarvis, like Jarvis was saying, we started really forming a really good friendship around 2019. And then during the pandemic, he was one of the only people that I really had a lot of communication with. Like we FaceTimed a lot during the time we were doing Haunt stuff together and talking about the future and things. So of course, like I mean, Night Demon is an incredible band. So I mean, instantaneously I felt like the connection of the bands was going to really work well. I was already friends with Rust. I had done some shows in Europe with his other band, Tanith. So there was like a nice reunion of sorts just right out the gate.
Once this tour started, did you sort of like a football team break down tape? Did you learn from the older bands? And by the time the end of the tour came, picked up some new stage tricks, if you will, or just something worked? I will say this. I always try to absorb as much from other people as I can. I can tell you right now, just seeing Brian, I really confided a lot into Brian, and he gave me some nice guidance on the vocal department. And, I asked him a lot of questions. And of course, Jarvis is just like, he's very charismatic on stage. He's one of the, obviously few singer bass players out there. That's not really a title you see often, bass vocalist. So he's one of a kind in essence. And obviously there's always stuff to be learned out there. And if you don't see that, you're not really in the right headspace. So I always feel like there's something to take away no matter how long you've been around or how not long you've been around. You always need to look at things and go, wow, this was really great. And I thought that both bands performed with 100% heart and spirit every night. And that was something to really like look at as an inspirational thing, because it's like, that's what it takes. Like, honestly, if you're not going to go out there and give it your heart, you didn't do it right. And I felt like everybody did that night after night. And that was a great experience, because I've been in situations where it's not that. You can feel that. And I didn't feel that at all. And I felt like everybody really
really gave it their all every night. Even, Brian, he felt ill after a while, and he got up there and he gave it his all, man. And that was within itself. But we still talk about the Satan guys in a way. All of us in Haunt, we found them to be really, really inspirational on the light that they've been doing it for so long and so many years, and that they're still all together, the original. There's something to be said there about them. We hope to have that. You know what I mean? We hope to be
Too late.
Yeah.
Hey, Jarvis, just question, going up and down. You guys went coast to coast in a matter of 5 weeks. It still amazes me, being a fan, that is actually possible. Like you said, towing a bus with the equipment, the Haunt guys behind you in a van. But were there any areas of the country or any particular shows that stood out, maybe in a good way or like a weird way, that you can look back and you're like, oh man, I remember this one and we'll never forget that show?
Here's what I've learned. The major cities are the worst to play in. They're the most expensive for a band to get in and out of and to stay in. They always have the lowest turnout. You always find yourself also doing like an underplay at you're playing one of the smallest venues in the biggest cities. They're expensive for the fans. You get a radius clause where it's like, well, you can't play. There's 3 suburbs outside the city. You could probably do them all, but you can't do any of them because you're doing the big city. So it's like, you always want to have your name in lights in LA or New York City or London or Paris. And, I play all these places, and I just find that more and more it's the least enthusiasm too. And I'm not bagging on people from those cities, because obviously, there's a level of choice that they have, and that they're probably a bit spoiled, which is like, who wouldn't want that? Every show comes through. But I always found, especially this tour, was a confirmation that the smaller cities that a lot of bands don't go through are the ones that end up being the best shows. Places like Tulsa, places like Wichita, towns like that, for example, or even Clifton. Clifton's, New Jersey is great because it's located, in a way where those interstates meet, where like if you're from New York or you're from Philly or you're from Jersey, it's kind of an easier place to get to. But I find myself gravitating more towards the smaller markets, because that's where the fans really care, and they come back again and again and again, and audiences seem to grow there. And I find they seem to shrink sometimes in major cities, depending on, what night you're playing on or what else is going on out there.
Yeah, it's so true, because especially living in New York and New York City, there's an overindulgence of shows. You can go to see any kind of band in any genre on any night. And then you got sports teams. It's almost like, maybe some of the smaller markets are a little bit better for you guys, because there is more of a showcase on your show coming into the town, versus you kind of get lost in the shuffle, right?
It's noticeable how much better they are.
It's a lot less stressful navigating through smaller cities as well, man. Honestly, it's just, when I drive into New York, I'm just automatically stressed out because of just the sheer amount of traffic, and then you don't know where you're exactly going. And I remember at that one, didn't I drive to like somewhere to get you guys, Jarvis? I had to drive across the bridge a couple times.
We had to park the bus in Secaucus, New Jersey, because we couldn't bring it into the city.
Yes.
So again, another expense to us. We had to take a bunch of Ubers back and forth and van rides and cross load. And, we didn't stay in the city, because of the price is just not worth it, So a lot of that stuff. And look, I'm not being I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, that instead of, that would be the answer to your question. Like, what really stood out is a lot of these smaller markets, which are actually not smaller for us. So they're a smaller market. If you're an arena band, but whatever, like, it's kind of cool to notice that, though, because, the big cities were places that bands like us always wanted to get to. And it's just, kind of the sheen is worn off for us. So it's not like none of us will do that again. But if we have a choice in the matter, if we could play more cities around a major city and not have to cut them out, I think we would probably go that route, because the diehard fans from the big city love to get out of the city, and just even if they have to travel an hour, because within the city, if you're playing a gig in London, it can take you up to 2 hours sometimes to get to a gig if you're if you're in East London, right? And it's so what's the difference? Travel outside of town for a night. People don't have a problem with that.
Do you think because of those obstacles and hurdles, the bigger cities, maybe sometimes the attendance is affected because people are thinking, I'd really like to go see the band, but I'm going to do this, and this?
It could be. It's probably a number of reasons, but honestly, it's the underplay. That's what I think, because it's like anybody in a big city is going to go to a big event or a nice theater. There, when you're playing seedy bars in the big city, people actually, some people in the smaller markets are shocked by that. They're like, wow, like and it just logistically, it just creates a problem for us, because we bring somewhat of a production out on the road, and then you have to kind of figure out how to pack it into a taxi and then go into the bar and have no dressing room, and you're just kind of stuck out there. So it has become, again, I'm not complaining. We do what we do for rock and roll, but it's also so much more gratifying when you can go to somebody's town and it really means something to them,
So here's a magic question. Ryan, which cities had the best food?
Oh, wow. I got to go Philly, I think. I mean,
Get a little Pat's cheesesteaks or something like that?
Well, the steak and cheese, man, it's just like, we can't get, you don't get that in the UK. And it's kind of, whenever I go there, I always have one of those, because it's like, you gotta, it's like going to London and having fish and chips, I guess. It's just, it's just something that you do. And it's, I mean, I try, when I'm out on tour, I try to have something different every day. Because the temptation would be to have McDonald's every day or something like that. And I don't want to do that. I like to try different dishes out, different cuisines and what have you. So I try to avoid that kind of fast food thing, but sometimes you can't, obviously. But, it's nice to get out to a restaurant and try different things, not just in the States, but across Europe and what have you. Different countries have different things that are worth trying. And when you go there, rather than go to one of these places that everywhere has them, in Germany or wherever, but you go to where the locals go. You say, right, okay, where do you eat? Which restaurant do you eat in? And that's where you go, because that's where you get a more of a real feel, or if you pardon the pun, a taste for what the country is about.
Well, if you head up to Rochester area the next time you guys are around, this guy above you, Mr. V, has his own food company.
Oh, yeah, I own food vending carts, 28 years up here in the Rock. And
okay.
Yeah, we have a fun saying up here. Name of the company's Mr. V's.
We need to do that then. We need to do that on the next tour.
Well, when Blood Feast came in a few years ago, I became friends with the band. Yeah. We brought a sack of sandwiches, and you know what? You guys could relate to this. They do their post-show load-in, and we slap each other up and give them a big bag of sandwiches.
Okay.
Like the next day, they're texting me like, "Dude, that was like the littlest things." Like we brought Raven up to town last fall, Raven and Riot Act. And, just the small things. We had nice catering for them. It was above and beyond on the rider. To this day, Johnny Gallagher is like, oh, you guys, you have that, you guys know how to do it. I just tell him it's the Italian in us.
Nice. John's insane. He's a lovely guy.
Oh, the great band.
Well,
So,
they both are. I mean, John and Mark, I've known them both for years, obviously.
yeah.
Back from the Neat Records days. We've known each other probably since 1979, you know. We used to hang around together in Neat Records, and it was kind of like a party atmosphere all of the time. It was like home, because you'd have all the guys together. You'd have Venom in there, you'd have Raven in there, and we just have like just great times back in those days.
Well, back in those days, it was fantastic, that new wave of British heavy metal movement. Yourself, Raven, Venom, Witchfinder General, just the list goes on and on. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk with Trevor and find out what it's like being the young guns of this tour and their place in the metal and hard rock landscape. This is Metal Mayhem ROC with our guests, Jarvis Leatherby of Night Demon, Brian Ross of Satan, and Trevor Church of Haunt. We'll be right back.
Metal Mayhem ROC.
So here we are. We find ourselves in the summer of 2023, and the band Haunt, being the young guys in the group, they're touring. Trevor, can you get us up to speed on what's going on with the band right now?
Hold on. I'd like to interject. Sorry. With that sentiment, me and Trevor are not that young anymore. And Trevor has also, Haunt would be considered the newest of the three bands, but his discography is already Satan and Night Demon's discography put together. So, and as far as Satan being an old band, I gotta say, the last four records, the newer records can compete with any of the old stuff. And for the same five guys doing it from the classic, Court in the Act era, you can't say that about any band from that time. No band has the lineup. But second of all, you can't say that about many bands that are still putting out that music at that high of a clip and that high of a quality. So I just had to interject that stuff. Sorry.
No, and thank you. Fair enough. I was just trying to illustrate the.
I got you.
You're right.
Also, let's not forget. I was Beastmaker, traveling all over the world as Beastmaker before Haunt. So I've been around.
Okay. All right.
That's all right.
You're not wrong.
Fair
wrong. We just have a little bit of a sugar to add to all that.
Yeah, when you're in your 40s and you're a young band, you're like, holy shit, is the next era heavy metal? 50 is
the
young.
Stones are 80.
50 is the new 20, right?
It is. Man,
Listen to
you know
that
what?
guy. He's like, listen to him. I'm 40 years old. Man, I'm 61.
Yeah. You're ripping. Jarvis said, you're doing better shit now than you were in your fucking young years. It's incredible.
Yeah. And that's good. You know what? That's good for guys like us, to see, if you're still doing it at 69 and, Jagger's up there at 80 or 81 or whatever, still having kids and shit. Because when I grew up, when I was young, the heat was on right when I got out of high school, because rock used to be, as it being the number one most popular genre of music back in the day. It was a young man's game, and the record companies were just like looking for the young, fresh meat. When you were 30, you were way past your prime in those days, and so the fact that these guys could still get up and do it at their age gives us hope that we could still keep going with this, because that's not how it used to be. And it was looked at that when you were over the age of 30, pretty much, it's like, that's, it's time to kind of hang it up or transition into your folk era, so.
Well, Travis expanded on that, talking about the Stones when back in 81, when they had that 20th anniversary tour. And they're 38, 39. It's like, these guys are old, and here we are. And the thing with Trevor, the thing with Haunt is, I guess the band is new to me.
Yeah, I started it in 2017, but I had come up with the initial kind of idea for it much earlier. It was just Beastmaker was busy. We were traveling. We were on Lee Dorian's label, Rise Above Records. and he had flown us out to Europe to do our first tour ever with Blood Ceremony, and had us on the Roadburn Festival in Tilburg. And so there was like a lot of stuff going on with my other band at that time that was really pushing a lot of my ideas aside. And the band, and also that band, the guys didn't want to do the style of heavy metal that I wanted to do with Haunt. They wanted to stay in the more traditional doom metal. And that's kind of why that shift is. So, I mean, I've been working on shit for many years, but yeah, I feel you, man. It's I don't take any offense to it. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, it is new to a lot of people, and that's good, because that means new people are finding out about the band still, even though, I've been putting in, some years. You know what I mean?
But in a sense, Trevor, you are very old school in mind, because just look at the image I put together. I mean, I know you're out promoting the Golden Arm record, but look, you've put out 7 albums in 6 years. I mean, that's that old school way. So, and the new album is great. I describe it for, let's say, the listeners that don't know Haunt. It's a great blend of guitar-driven melodic heavy metal with great musicianship and killer singing.
Thank you,
That's how I see it.
I appreciate that.
I love the show at Dingbats, and you guys, I saw it. You guys went on early. You were on at 7:30, but man, the people were coming in off the streets, and the enthusiasm was there. You definitely got a lot of attention on that show. So maybe talk a little bit about Golden Age and how that's been received. And it looks like you got a tour coming up later this summer, correct?
In late August, we have a tour with our, seriously, one of our sister bands, Hellfire. I've done 4 tours with those guys already. They're right down the way. They're only 2.5 hours in the Bay. And we're getting back out to the East Coast. It was more like, let's get to the East, let's get to Florida, let's get to the, the South and places like that we don't get to play very often. Basically, the West Coast is scrubbed on that one for the most part, just because, like I said, we can go do that and have done that many times. And it's better to, give it a more fresh approach, different band perhaps. But, I'll be honest with you, I've released a lot of albums. And when I do albums now, I don't really worry about how they're received as much as all right, now I need to top it with the next one. So my vision is different. I mean, I feel like Golden Arm is a step forward in the light that I'm working with this guy, Darren Trentacost, he's out of Las Vegas and runs Monster Sound and Picture out there. And he's kind of taking over on the mixing and mastering side of things. I think that side is a really nice new exploratory thing. As you can see, I'm in my recording studio right now, and I had done things really independently for many years, because it was kind of like that DIY ethos that I've really instilled in me from the punk rock era. The California is still very, I was going to 924 Gilman Street, where Green Day and Rancid and all those bands were popping up. So I saw that was kind of the way, you know what I mean? It's just fucking do your shit. You have your people or whatever. But anyway, I feel like it's been received really well. We took a different direction and things, and also started to do more this is the most music videos I've ever done on an album. I did 2, which in my world has been always an issue, being from Fresno. We're not, it's funny when Jarvis was talking about these side markets, and, where I come from, Fresno is that place in California that's kind of passed over, but shouldn't be. Yeah, I feel like things have been, it's been exactly how I would want them to be. I'm not disappointed. I feel like the reviews have been good. I don't really read them anymore, because when you get to 7 albums, what's the point? You're like, I'm doing what I am doing. I'm not interested in that side of things. I'm interested in moving forward with the future and where that's going to bring me. And we also have a tour in March 2024. We're going to be back in Europe, and it's been 4 years since I've been to Europe because of the pandemic. So it's been a really good thing. Everything that's happened post pandemic now has been just a terrific experience, and I'm thankful and grateful that everybody involved, Jarvis, Brian, everybody has been a piece of that puzzle of moving forward in the future. You know what I'm saying?
That's great. Well, Trevor, it is good stuff, and I wish you the best success. And I see you guys are playing the St. Vitus Bar, which, again, like Verno said, it's a couple tunnels away from me, and whether or not the traffic's good, you may or may not see me there. So but I'm hoping to get down, and I'd hope to grab a beer with you again.
I don't drink. I don't drink. You're going to have to, I'll take a water.
We'll have a seltzer, though.
Yes,
we'll have
you
a
go.
seltzer together. All right. So, hey, Jarvis, on to Night Demon. I know you released the new album, The Outsider, earlier in the year, and you did this tour. And I think you guys also, after the U.S. tour, you headed over to some shows in Japan and Ireland, correct? And I think from
that's right.
The video from Prelude was taken from an old church in Ireland. So did you kind of revisit that area when you went out on tour over there?
Yeah, and actually we did some acoustic sessions, some acoustic versions of the album, which is something that we've never done, but we did it, live acoustic stuff. Our drummer plays guitar too, so it was pretty awesome. But we tried to do it in that church, but it's actually boarded up. So, but we ended up finding another church to do it in. So those sessions will be released soon. But yeah, we're staying busy. Many people know that, we don't, our album cycles last pretty long. So, I mean, we'll be touring on this album probably until sometime in 2025. But as Brian knows, in the year 2025. But yeah, like we've got a couple festivals coming up this summer in Europe. We kind of took the summer off because we have, we've got a lot of festivals next year in Europe. So, but we've got a couple one-offs in August. We're flying out to Denver for a one-off, and we will be in New York City on August 20th at LPR. So, so we will be doing that. September, we do a full European headlining tour where we're going to be playing this album in its entirety. It's under 35 minutes, so there'll still be probably at least 10 Night Demon classics in that set. And then we've got some more one-offs in October. We're going to Mexico for the Mexico Metal Fest. And then next year we have a really, really big schedule. And we will be going back to Japan with Raven and the Rods. So we got some upstate New York in there. And Raven, who we mentioned, who actually Raven, took Night Demon out on our very first tour. So we have a long history with them too. We've played probably over 60 shows with them. All over the world. So that'll be a good reunion there. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff planned, a lot of really unique stuff. We always try and do a lot of really unique things as a band. And for anybody that likes listening to interviews and stuff, we have a podcast that runs every week. This week we are up to episode 150 weeks running. So please check that out, the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. And yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff going on with us all the time.
Jarvis, speaking about stuff going on, I see there's a lineup change. Dusty, the drummer, Dusty Squires is out, and you have a new drummer?
Yeah, after 9 years, yeah, we have Brian Wilson in there, not from the Beach Boys. But yeah, he's been a friend of ours for a really long time. He was playing with Yngwie Malmsteen for the last 5 years, and he, we're one of his favorite bands. So he was the right choice for us, and Dusty actually recommended him. So there's no bad blood there with us and him. It's all good. He just wanted a normal life, and, he just got that. So Brian was ready to do it, and it's injected a whole new life into the band and a lot of enthusiasm. And so it's kind of what we needed at the time, even though we didn't really know it, So the fear is always the unknown, right? So, but you have to take a step into it and realize that usually everything's going to be okay.
Well, congratulations on that. And speaking about the Rods, good friends with Carl Kennedy. We just had him on the show last week talking about, their summer thing. And Walt had a chance to see him about a month ago.
He's a highly underrated drummer, especially live. I think when you hear the records, he plays a lot straightforward, but live, he's an incredible drummer. He's like really inspiring to watch.
They played the Chance up in Poughkeepsie, and it was the first show in forever, and there was probably only 100 people there. And the Rods never really get down to New York, New City, and New Jersey. And this was the first time I ever saw him. But I told Carl afterwards, I said, his drum solo like you could have thought you were at Download Festival. It was that powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you know what? It's cool. I mean, yeah, there's only 100 people there, but those were the 100 cool people, you know? So like, I mean, that's the thing, you know, we had some great turnouts on the Hell's Decibels tour. Some were not as great, but some of those ended up being the best shows. And it's the people that are there that matter, you know? I mean, a lot of people, especially a lot of bands from the 80s that were very, very popular. A lot of them complain these days, you know, that they're playing to only 2,000 people and not 20,000. But the reality is when they were playing to 20,000, probably only 2,000 of them really actually cared about the band, you know? So it's like, why not have all your hardcore fans there in one place versus a bunch of people that are just going to kind of ruin it for those people? You know, you got to kind of look at it in a different light.
Hey, Jarvis, I wanted to ask you a question. What is your fan base like in Japan? Because bands talk about how the Japanese crowds are very unique. What does Japan mean to Night Demon?
Well, I mean, it was our first time over there, so I think a lot of people were anticipating it, but we did make a lot of new fans too. They were actually pretty rowdy. I always heard that they were very respectful during the show, but in heavy metal, it's a bit different, you know, and they really got into it. And, you know, they're very respectful people in person. They follow all the rules. You know, it's a very clean place. But, you know, it's always good. We all three of us in these bands get to experience a lot of different cultures all over the world on you know, somewhat of a daily basis. And I think that's what's kind of made us all level-headed and grounded and more down to earth. We see how everybody else lives. And politically, I think we kind of throw a lot of that stuff aside because we're kind of worldly people, and music has brought us there.
And you, I see before we move on to Brian in the Satan camp, you guys are opening some shows in the UK for Michael Schenker. So congratulations on that. That's a big bill.
Yeah, thanks. That's like a bucket list thing for me. He's my number one favorite guitar player of all time. We did some gigs with UFO early in our career in Europe, but you know, obviously Michael wasn't in the group at that time. That was great. But yeah, this is just one of those things, you know. It's like I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm going to enjoy this, you know. And right when I get off stage, I just get to see him play, and that's kind of a rewarding thing. I have a photo of him and myself when I was 15 years old that I'm going to bring for him to sign. So,
should I tell Jarvis my Michael Schenker experience from
No.
So my Schenker comes through. It was October of this past year. And it's out in Stroudsburg, PA, and I'm at the backstage. It's me and one other guy, and the other guy has a guitar. And we're like, "Where's the band?" And so none of the band come out. I'm ready to drive home, and I see this black Cadillac Escalade drive down with Florida plates, and it's Schenker driving himself around. And I went up to him like, "Hey, just wanted to say hi," and he didn't even roll his window down.
Yeah,
he just waved and drove away.
I mean, I've dealt with him a lot through the years, and he still doesn't even know who I am. You know, I've promoted shows. When UFO got back together, I actually spent some of my college fund to get them to California. That's a true story. And that it was worth it. But yeah, I promoted shows for him in California throughout the years. I've seen him many times. I've written reviews for fanzines about his gigs. And, you know, I mean, that's just his personality. He doesn't even listen to music. He claims he hasn't listened to music since 1991. I was there's a quick story and then we'll move on, but I went to see him in October of 2018 in Germany, and I was friends with his agent, and his agent said, "Hey, let's go before the show. I got to talk to Michael." And then, you know, you get to meet him again. So he was actually really pleasant, the most pleasant he's ever been in any of our meetings. And it was right after sound check. And about 20 minutes into our conversation, the house sound guy started to play music because they were going to open doors. And he cut the conversation off and said, I have to leave. I can't hear music. And he ran out the back door into a Mercedes and took off. His thing is he doesn't want to be influenced by anything but himself. And maybe, hey, you know, I mean, he has his own sound and his own style, but that's his story.
And I think the other thing we learned too is I think Robin McCauley will be singing go forward. So you're going to get a new singer.
He's my favorite of of all the singers. I really like the Macaulay Schenker group stuff. It's a bit more hair metal, but that's self-titled album that they did. I thought his vocals were great. I do, of course, love the Gary Barden stuff, but yeah, Robin is a fellow Irishman, and I'm here in Ireland right now, and so we're going to be playing some Irish dates with them. So yeah, I'm really stoked. He's a really, really nice guy too.
Well, best of luck on that tour. So Brian, so we're going to bring you guys up. So I know you're still out. Well, you were out touring for the 2022 release Earth Infernal, killer kick-ass metal album. So talk about that one. How's it been received, and how did the songs go down live? Did you get good reception from the fans and all that?
It's been a total roller coaster with that album, because we talked about the COVID situation. And how that affected everything. We were lucky enough to get that album recorded before COVID hit. Blitzkrieg didn't turn out so lucky. We started an album before COVID, and we're still finishing it off now. And funnily enough, I'm doing some work on it tonight. But Earth Infernal was one of those albums that we kind of did, and it was kind of disjointed, and I was doing a bit of vocal here and a bit of vocal there. And I never really heard much of the songs once we'd recorded them, because while you're recording, you only hear the bit that you're recording on. And then afterwards, usually you get to listen to the track, but we just didn't have time. So it was just get through all of the tracks. So the first time I heard the album was when we got the test pressings back from the record company, and I put it in the stereo in my car. And I wasn't impressed. I really wasn't. I thought, what is this? This is not what I expected. And then, but I listened to it every time I went out in the car, listened to it. And then it really hit me, And I thought, I think we've got something here. But I was kind of thinking, well, what if other people think when they listen to it first time out, what if they don't like it, But, that obviously that did not happen, because everybody seems to like it. They could be lying to me, of course, but that is always a possibility. But I kind of, I've met a lot of fans over the years, and I think you get to a feel for it. I think if somebody's lying barefaced to you, and I think it's nice to sort of get that feedback from all of the people that buy the records, because they are the people that you're doing it for. They are, they put you where you are, and without them, a band is nothing. So, I like to get their opinion, and really, it was received extremely well, much better than I ever thought it would be, and unlike Caught in the Act, it didn't get panned. I mean, like Kerrang in England, when they first heard Caught in the Act, they said it was an underrated piece of shit written by a bunch of underrated piece of shit musicians, performed by a piece of shit underrated musicians. And I thought, okay. And it was a lady called Justin Cole that wrote that. And then many years later, I came across it in my scrapbook. And I emailed it to Justin and said, well, I see Satan are now on their 4th, 5th album. Where are you now? She never replied. But it doesn't matter. The important thing is that for any band, really, you have to kind of look at the reason why you do what you do. And me, when you first start out, when I was a young kid listening to the Beatles, I did it because I wanted to play music. And as time goes on, you never lose sight of that. I saw that in Trevor. He knows exactly what he wants, and he knows how to achieve it. And he's such a talented guy. And he actually got up on stage and a couple of nights and sang for me when I was ill. Russ did the vocals, the rest of the gig. And at the very last gig of the tour, Trevor got up with me and we sang a duet together. And that is a memory that I'll take for as long as
I love you, buddy. I love you, Brian. I miss Brian so much right now. It's not even fun. Like, I'm looking at Brian, I'm like, I wish we could like. I honestly like Brian is the kind of dude like I would hang out with regularly because he, you know, in my life I've always hung out with older musicians, and not saying you're, you know, that this is not a bad thing. Like my dad's friends older, and then I'm, you know, as I'm getting into things, I started hanging out with this. And I had an older friend. His name's Dave Cole, who taught me how to repair amplifiers, work on guitars, and he showed me he had an awesome record collection. And he had a practice room at his house, and I rented a room from him. He was my roommate for years. So, like Brian, I connected with Brian immediately because he's the kind of person that he inspires me to be a better human being, and he centers me to my music as well. So thank you for all those nice things you just said about me. I mean, honestly, I love Brian. He's such his vocals are just incredible. We all know that Satan should have been one of the biggest heavy metal bands of all time. That's how I feel about them.
Where they're still the best, and that's what matters.
That is what matters. They are. That's what fucking matters. 100%.
We're still here, you know, and Night Demon as well, of course, on the tour. I love Night Demon. They're one of my favorite bands. And when the guys invited me to go up on stage and do Blitzkrieg with them,
yeah, we did that in
I was absolutely, it was unbelievable. And again, that is a memory that I shall take with me for the rest of my life. It was an amazing thing, and amazing guys, you know. The whole tour was just superb. But, you know, getting back to the point of Earth Infernal, do I think it's the best album that Satan have ever done? I'm not sure. But is it a good album? Of course, yeah. I love it. I tend not to, once an album is released, I generally don't listen to it unless I have to. But Earth Infernal is a good album, and I do enjoy listening to it when I do have a listen. And I dip into back catalogue every now and again. But yeah, I think it was very, very well received.
Well, that's it's a great album, Brian. I think personally it's an awesome album. But hey, before we let you guys go, Brian, I had to ask you a question about the band Blitzkrieg and the song Blitzkrieg. Obviously, it's well known that Metallica took the song and ran with it. Talk about that experience. Have you ever gotten up on stage with Metallica and maybe sound checked it with them, or talked to Lars about this or something?
No, and yes. I'll take each one of it. I mean, Blitzkrieg is very special to me. I put the band together in 1980. And we're still going. And unlike Satan, it's not the same musicians, although I do keep in touch with every one of them, apart from Ian, of course, who passed away a few years ago. But I can tell you exactly what happened. We were in the studio at Neat Records, and we were recording the Time of Changes album. And I got home. And my wife said, "Oh, while you were out, a guy phoned for you." And I said, "All right, who was it?" She says, it's some American guy. He's calling back later. He said he was called Lars Ulrich. And I said, "Yeah, right." Anyway, he, about 10, 10:30 that evening, the telephone rang and I answered it, and it was Lars. At first he said, "Yeah, I'm Lars Ulrich." And I goes, "Yeah, okay. Really, And then he said, "Hi, Brian. Look, I'll cut to the chase. We're a huge fan of the band, and can I ask you, can we do a cover version of Blitzkrieg?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course you can. I don't have a problem with that." So I spent the next hour and a half on the telephone with him, going through the chord structures with him, and I dictated the lyrics to him. And then they recorded it and still got it wrong. The lyrics are wrong, the music's wrong, but hey, it's Metallica, and they put their stamp on the song, and that's great, and that's fine. And it's been over the years, their cover version of Blitzkrieg has been a blessing and a curse at the same time, because a lot of people believe that Blitzkrieg only exists because of that. And that is not true at all. So it's been a curse in that respect. But the blessing has been in that we've picked up on a lot of Metallica fans that may not have heard of us otherwise, who have then came and initially said, "Why are you doing a cover version of a Metallica song?" And I'm going, "Really?" But once they know, you get that kind of respect from them. And then they've listened to other Blitzkrieg songs and discovered that Blitzkrieg isn't the best song that we've ever written, because it really isn't. But what Blitzkrieg is to me is it's a kind of the kind of song that every band wants, i.e., an anthem. Black Sabbath have got Paranoid. Deep Purple have got Black Knight. Whole lot of love for Led Zeppelin. Every band wants this legendary song that and for my sins, Blitzkrieg is mine. I'm never going to be able to get away from that song. I did try for a period of time not playing it, but of course the fans won't let you get away with that. They want to hear it. So now I just do it, and I'm not saying that I love the song, because I don't, but I found a new respect for it. Not because I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for the fans that want to listen to it. And simply, when Jarvis and the guys asked me to do it with them, it was such an honor to play with such a great band. And get up and do one song. I wish it had been a better song, but never mind.
We almost did Buried Alive. We'll do Buried Alive next time.
No, but so it was great, and it's still nice to be able to get out there and play it.
Well, Brian, excuse me, but Lars even admitted on the recording right at the end, his fade out fucked up one place, but I'm gonna.
Oh, they've fucked up in a lot more places than one.
I'm going to let Walt bring this in for a landing. Guys, thank you for...
hang on one sec. Sorry, John. If I could just interject. The question wasn't asked what Satan has coming up. They will be performing at the Metal Magic Festival in Denmark on July 8th. They will be also performing at the Candelabrum Festival in Leon, Mexico, the first weekend of September. That's their very first ever appearance for the band in Mexico. So that's a pretty big deal. And they will be coming back to the USA in the fall. This tour is not announced yet, but they will be on tour with, I can't say now, but another, a group of friends from around the same area up there in Northern England, and look for them to be touring hopefully in Europe next winter. I'm still waiting on an offer for that, but we've got some stuff cooking. And as far as I know, I talked to Russ the other day, and demos are starting for the next Satan album, which will hopefully be out sometime in 2024.
Sounds like a lot of great shit to look forward to, you guys.
Yeah, I mean it is great, and I didn't want to mention the return to the US because it hasn't been announced yet. So I guess it's okay if your manager announces it first. So that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't give away any details, but you guys get an exclusive here for doing such a nice interview with us.
I'm going to leave you with my Christmas card. So what's up on the screen? Merry Christmas.
Nice.
Here's your Christmas cards, and
right,
we hope to see you in the fall.
Guys.
Absolutely.
All kidding aside, guys, this was a lot of fun, and the first time we've had a big, giant group of guys together really kick ass. So thanks, guys. And
thank you.
Trevor and Jarvis, you guys are coming in a couple of months. I hope to hit either one or both of the shows, and I'll make sure I stop by and say hi, all right?
Thank you, guys. Brian, love you, man.
All
Brian, love you, brother. Jarvis, I love you, man. I'll see you guys soon.
You need to come to England so we can go and chill a little bit together, yeah?
We're going to make it happen. I'll see you next year, man. Or if you're coming to the USA and you're going to be in California, I will be there. I will drive up to see you. So talk to you soon. Jarvis, I'll talk to you soon too, brother. Love you guys.
All right.
Don, thank you. Walt, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you, guys. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jarvis. Hi, Brian. See you guys later.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.